There's a bit of backstory to this review. A little over a year ago, I reviewed Renegade Starred by J.N. Chaney. While I liked some elements of the story, I thought the book was kind of meh in its overall presentation. A few months later, the author actually contacted me and thanked me for the review. He suggested I check out his other series, The Variant Saga, since it was a genre he was much more comfortable writing. So I went and ordered a copy from Amazon and finally read it last month to help recover from reading Empress Teresa. Also, credit where it's due, but Chaney was very polite and professional in our conversation, despite how harsh my review was. Regardless of anyone's writing style, you gotta respect that. But anyway, on to the book. In 2157, an incident known as the Jolt rocked Earth. A toxic miasma, called Variant, spread across the planet, killing anything caught in its way. The only survivors were those who were able to hide underground and establish cities, doing whatever it took to scrape by. 200 years later, society has adapted and science may have finally found a way to conquer the deadly environment on the surface. Generations of selective breeding and careful conditioning may have finally created a group of humans able to survive breathing in Variant. One of these is a student named Terry, a stoic youngster who's never excelled at anything until the Variant gave him enhanced abilities. But when a classmate goes rogue and escapes to the surface, it's up to Terry and his squad to find him and bring him back, because humans weren't the only things to evolve to survive Variant. To understand the scope of the plot, you first need to understand how society has evolved underground. The government was comprised of three main groups: the scientists, the military, and the mothers. Because repopulating humanity was such a high priority item, and because women were tasked and often assigned to become breeding stock, with many women popping out at least 5 kids. While the main plot follows Terry and his friends as they grow into the next generation of soldiers, there's a joining plot line that follows Terry's mother, whose name is Mara, and a few of her cohorts. The science and military sectors of the government have become corrupt and power-hungry. The head of the science department thinks he might be able to win against the Variant, but that means sacrificing children, which the mothers vehemently oppose. While the book treats Terry's storyline as more of the A plot, and the government corruption story as the B plot, I couldn't help but find myself more invested in the B plot. The A plot did more to explore the world and the backstory of what the Variant even was, as well as give Terry some strange new powers, but it was the character work of the B plot that caught my attention the most. Mara and her associates were better defined, and had higher stakes to fight for. The science and military sectors quickly closed the mothers out of any meaningful governmental representation, and they ruled by fiat. Mara was selected as the new matriarch, and inspired a revolution to bring transparency back to society and get rid of the corruption that saw people as tools. Terry's story was about exploring the unknown and discovering himself. Mara's story was about overthrowing a government. Now, that's not to say Terry was a bad protagonist. He was the average student, the little guy that got picked on and relied on his friends to get over several obstacles. He spends most of the first half of the book talking about how small he is, how he isn't as skilled or advanced as his friends, and often derided himself, like he was setting himself up in his mind as the permanent weakling. However, there were times when he really shined, like when he outsmarted his classmates in simulated combat training, or when he single-handedly took on a surface monster called a Rab in order to save his squad leader. Terry may come off a little flat to some readers, but this is clearly only part 1 of his story, and he's meant to grow on the whole through the series. I have no doubt that he'll become a stronger character through the next book. Some of the side characters felt the same way. The other members of Terry's squad could be defined in only a few words. There was the nerd, the jock, the leader, the extra, and the asshole. It wasn't until the end of the book that these others started to feel more than two-dimensional. This isn't a problem with the adults in the B-plot though, like Lieutenant Ross, the highest-ranking woman in the military, which was outstanding as most women just become mothers. There's Ava Long, the former matriarch who represents the mothers and created a government body equal to the science and military wings. And there's Nuber, the teacher and former soldier who lost his arm on a mission gone wrong on the surface. I'd also have to point out that at the start of each chapter is the transcript of an audio recording, either from the characters immediately affected by the plot, or from centuries ago when the Variant was first released. The dramatic change in style instantly helps the moments seem dire and tense. The snappy back-and-forth dialogue is used effectively to paint a darkening image or give some ominous glimpse of the past. They were always a great start to each chapter, like the warm-up to a comedy act. Overall, the book was pretty good. Not a bad time to be had, for sure. It took a while to get the younger characters established and defined, but the adults' plotline drew me in pretty quickly. The universe was simple but enjoyable, with a reasonable amount of danger. I could believe the risks the characters were under, and it didn't feel like the author was taking it easy on anyone. The pacing was effective, and there were enough mysteries to keep my attention the whole way through. If you haven't been driven insane by the sheer overabundance of young adult dystopian novels, I'd say give this one a chance. So, have you read the book? What did you think? If not, do you want to read it now? Whatever your thoughts, comment below and stay tuned for more.